Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. Now, Black Sabbath is obviously known as one of, if not the most important heavy metal band of all time. So many people reference this band as being inspirational to them. They've influenced countless musicians within the heavy metal scene and outside of it. And to me, they are obviously one of the most iconic bands that has ever existed. Now, Black Sabbath has an interesting history. You had the stuff in the 70s with Ozzy. My favorite album, of course, being two albums, actually, Sabotage and Paranoid and Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Actually, like three. But all of them were pretty solid efforts, pretty good stuff. I know some people don't like Never Say Die or Technical Ecstasy. To be honest with you, I actually like those two albums. But Black Sabbath, really, I can't really think of a terrible album, in my opinion, that they have ever done. But they had an interesting history because you had Ozzy, then you had Ronnie James Dio, which is my favorite era of the band. Then you had Tony Martin, sang on quite a few albums. Ian Gillan sang on an album. Glenn Hughes sang on an album. And I'll be honest with you, the Dio era of Black Sabbath is really, in my opinion, the best. It's my favorite, honestly. I remember getting into Black Sabbath. I remember the first album I ever ended up getting by them was Paranoid. And then, of course, I had Dehumanizer just after the Dehumanizer album had come out, maybe a year after that. But I ended up getting into them in high school. So many people may not know this either. Tony Martin is probably one of the biggest influences on my singing voice. So I love everything about Black Sabbath. Well, the Dio era to me is by far my favorite. And those are the two albums, Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell. Those two albums especially are two records that I go to when I want to get my Black Sabbath fix. And let's be honest, I mean, it's a legendary lineup. I mean, Tony Iommi, Ronnie James Dio. Geezer Butler is one of the best bass players that's ever lived. And, he had Bill Ward on the Heaven and Hell album, but then, of course, Vinny Appice playing on Mob Rules. And, of course, on this, which I'm about to review, Live Evil. Now, I remember in high school when I found this at a record store. I was really excited because, man, it's a live album. I never knew this album existed. Remember, the internet really didn't exist, especially in the way that it does now back when I was in high school. So I remember going to a record store and finding it, and I bought it. And I was really, really excited to listen to this because I was really spoiled with some killer live albums I had just bought. Live After Death by Iron Maiden obviously was a big one for me. And Decade of Aggression by Slayer was a great live album. It still is. And I was really into those. So I'm thinking, man, live Black Sabbath, it's going to sound great. I'm really, really excited. I can't wait to listen to this. And well, I remember listening to it and being sorely disappointed because I really didn't like the way the album sounded. I liked the song selection and the fact that, you had some older Ozzy era tunes on this as well with Ronnie James Dio singing on them. But when I listened to it, the sound quality and the quality of the album itself really was highly disappointing. And remember, back then, you didn't have YouTube or you didn't have Spotify or any of these places you could go to listen to something before you bought it. You just kind of had to take a chance. And sometimes you found really, really cool stuff that you really liked. And then, of course, you wasted your money on something that absolutely sucked. And this album, I was disappointed in it. I wasn't happy with it. And, a few years later, I listened to it again, but it was like, man, there's so many other great live records out there that I can listen to. I will choose to listen to those instead of this. So Live Evil, my original copy sort of just collected dust over the last few years. In the last, 20, 25 years. So then suddenly this box set starts coming out, right? I hear about it and I hear they remixed it. Now, folks, remixes can be very, very good or very, very bad. But, to me, I thought to myself, it can't really get that much worse than what it is. And there are albums over the years that honestly really needed a remix, like Blind Guardian with A Night at the Opera, for example, was a very, very good example of an album that needed a remix really bad. Brainstorm, the album Memorial Roots. It definitely needed a remix. And Nevermore had an album too that was just like, it was terrible, but then it was remixed. They actually re-released it, and the remix was so much better. Well, folks, I'm going to tell you this. this deluxe edition is phenomenal. I'm going to be honest with you. When I finally ended up getting this, I'm like, I hope the remix sounds amazing. It took a risk. And I'm really, really excited to tell all of you that the remixed version of this live album is absolutely phenomenal. And it's to the point where now I am listening to this live album quite a bit. You know, the remix, it's night and day. Because when I bought this box set, I listened to it and I listened to the original album first. I wanted to get a reference point. It had been like 20 years since I had listened to this, right? Maybe even more. Probably 20, 25 years. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound great. I mean, a remaster makes it sound a little bit better. But then there is the remix on this. The remix on it's like night and day, folks. It's night and day. All for the better, in all honesty. I was really excited to not only get to listen to this remix, which was great, but a lot of the contents in this box are amazing. They really are. There's some really cool stuff inside of the book that comes with. There's actually a little mini hardcover book that comes in here. I've spent probably the last 3 days reading this thing, and I'm going to show it to you. I spent the last 3 days reading this thing, and there's a lot of cool history when it comes to this live album. A lot of stuff I never knew either. I like, for example, there's a lot of facts and figures about, like people not showing up for when it was mixed. I thought that was interesting. Would the album have been different if the entire band had showed up for the mixing of this live album? Maybe it would have. Nevertheless, and it gives a whole bio. There's a lot of notes. I mean, this is a really well done. And a lot of these deluxe editions, there's been quite a few of these things coming out for many different bands. They had one for Paranoid. I have the one for Volume 4. There's one for Sabotage. So these super deluxe things that Black Sabbath has done are great. I absolutely love what they've done. Whitesnake's done quite a few of them as well. And there are a few other bands as well that have put these similar packages out. But it gives you all the tour dates. And overall, it's a nice package. Now, what's really cool is you have this little book, which is basically, again, like it's a really cool book. A lot of cool information, a lot of photos. And then there's a poster, and then you have the CDs below it. Overall, a very, very well packaged, very nice version of this. But I cannot emphasize enough how awesome the remix actually sounds. The remix is phenomenal. It really, really is. As a kid, being disappointed in this initially, and then listening to it again, a couple decades later, and the original version, it was like, man, I still don't like this, but man, the remix is phenomenal. I think it's great. The sound quality is phenomenal as well. So I'm going to tell you what, folks, if you like Dio, and I love Dio's voice. Dio, to me, one of the most iconic voices in heavy metal. My favorite, some of my favorite Dio albums, the stuff, especially Long Live Rock and Roll, the 2 Sabbath albums, the first 2 that he did, and his first couple solo albums. I mean, those things, these albums are timeless. They really, really are. And I could still go back, listen to Heaven and Hell, and listen to Mob Rules, and just, they never get old. These albums, there's a reason these albums are as iconic as they are. It's kind of like, he injected some energy into that band after Ozzy had left. So, to be honest with you, I recommend it. If you like Dio and you love Dio's voice and you like Black Sabbath with Dio, by all means, you should get the remixed version of this album. Get the Super Deluxe box set. You won't be disappointed if you're a Dio fan or a Black Sabbath fan. So with that, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on my podcasts and videos, hit the subscribe button and hit that little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. Thanks for watching. Stay metal.